Hey there folks, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today's a big one. We have from Travis Scott, Utopia. So I think I've got a theory why Travis Scott hasn't really been able to escape the lingering shadow of the crowd crush nightmare back in 2021. Because if you look at everything he's said, even in his art for nearly the past decade, he's a cipher. A shallow hedonist who built a temple to his swampy rage and dares you to get lost in it like he did. Where he's at is probably his most interesting as a collaborator, providing a backdrop to other artists. It's why I was, and still mostly am, underwhelmed by Astroworld, a carnival with so little substance to support it and it's not exactly aged well, and why the majority of his guest verses are utterly vacuous and unmemorable, and why I've never really bought into the ongoing hype around Utopia for the past 5 years, or if it would ever even come. But hey, it actually is here, with a runtime of 73 minutes. And you know, this might be contentious, but here it goes. I think I get what Travis Scott was attempting thematically, especially with how much this album borrows from Kanye West and specifically Yeezus, and the warped blur of progressive rock samples and electronic percussive rage. We're embracing even more over-the-top genre-blending production. He just owns it all to blow through even more debauchery, eventually forgiving himself to find his own personal transcendent utopia in his mind on the other side. Now I could highlight that Mike Dean is the consistent element across all of these attempted, overdone attempts to rip off the Money Store 10 years late, but really the gaping issue is that Travis Scott's contorted performances and awkward ad-libs, they don't really match Kanye's thrashing intensity or imagination, especially on an album that's way too goddamn long with even less to say, and minus any of the charged lyrical transgressions on Yeezus, or any sense that tangible consequences have been felt emotionally, because Travis does not have Kanye's old record for introspection in bars. We got an album that gestures at having edges or thoughtfulness, but just cannot back any of it up, and he sacrificed so much of his old school, smoked out Houston's southern flair to do so. And all that runs at odds with the album's other obvious goal of getting big commercial attention through some name chasing, which lacks a lot of impact when it's very obvious which guests were phoning it in, or if the song might have just been rejected from their own albums. Looking right at Beyonce and Young Thug here. Alongside a truly abysmal Playboi Carti performance, the abortive fragments that we got from Young Lean, Sway Lee, and Sampha, and then Drake trying to recapture the dis-energy that came on Sicko Mode on Meltdown, and failing miserably to convey any sense of menace. Now that's not saying there aren't moments here. The production and sample choices can occasionally produce a pretty impressive soundscape, even if it is nowhere near as experimental or bombastic as Travis clearly thinks it is, and the hooks are relatively few and far between. And then Westside Gunn has some restless energy on Lost Forever, Rob 49, 21 Savage, and SZA, they bring their own brands of menace. Future actually tries to be a little bit more introspective. James Blake and Justin Vernon, they've got some relatively uncanny, even gorgeous vibes in some of their crooning. And despite the pretty rough hook, I actually like Kid Cudi on Love, might be my favorite song here. But to be a little transgressive here, Utopia feels like a mid-2010s DC blockbuster movie, where every studio note adds in more bloat and takes away from a weak, nihilistic story, where the heroes are reassured that they don't owe the world a thing, and we are simply to be in awe of the presence. Minus all the smoke, I'm no longer mesmerized. But yeah, for anyone who's watching, if you'd like to like, comment, share, and subscribe, I would be extremely grateful. If you guys want to see more reviews, link to my Patreon is right over there. And as always, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse. I'll see you next time.